What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Rival Banter, Episode 1. I'm your host, Luke Croft, or Hoagie, alongside Seth Martin, or Bookish Pappy.
What's going on?
Seth,
Hey.
long time no podcast. How's it going, my friend?
It has been literal years. Doing well, buddy. Just living the dream.
Dude, it's crazy. We used to do Player 3 podcast for the uninitiated back in, when did Destiny come out? 2015? 2014?
13, I think. 2013, 2014.
What year did Destiny come out? Was it 2014? Okay, 20, we'll split the difference. It was 2014. So yeah, 2014 comes out. We were bitching about Destiny for some reason. I think it was because they were like, you can go to that mountain over there. And we couldn't go to that mountain over there, and we were real pissed about it.
We never quite got to that mountain.
And we were like, you know what we should do? We should bitch about this online. And so
we did it a lot.
And so we did. And we did like 200 episodes of Player 3 podcast, which was basically just a gaming podcast that we did every Monday. And then I moved away and we fell out of doing that. And then we both started playing Marvel Rivals, and here we are to talk about all things Marvel Rivals. And hopefully soon, eventually, our old P3P co-host Larry will be joining us as well. But Seth, catch us up on the last 5 years of your life, like just get into the nitty gritty.
We spent some time with Overwatch after, probably towards the end of the P3P days.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like our love for that game, or at least how it originally launched, kind of got us both here. But I think we just spent the last 5 years waiting for Marvel Rivals. I've always been kind of a big Marvel fan, although I was a big giant noob and really didn't get started until those movies started coming out in the early aughts. And here I am. I've read a lot more comics since then. This game just kind of has it all for me. And so, like I said, I think that these 5 years have been building up to this game.
Yeah. Well, to this game and to this podcast, honestly, man, because, we did P3P. We stopped doing P3P. I did a show called PVA Radio, which was another gaming podcast with Larry and another writer for a site, a guy named Cody. We did that for a couple of years, but I haven't been podcasting for a few years because I haven't really had anything I have cared about that much. And Marvel comes out, it's free to play. I download it. Me and you get into it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm like actually into this. Both, like, I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I've seen probably, like, let's try to list out the Marvel movies I've seen. I saw Winter Soldier. I've seen both Guardians of the Galaxies. I've seen all.
There are three Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, I've seen two Guardians of the Galaxies. I've seen. Okay. There's 3 Spider-Man movies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen the 3 Spider-Man movies, and I think that's about it. I think that's all I've seen.
3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, 3 Tom Holland.
Considering they're like, I think the count is like 35 movies. I mean, like you've got to be dedicated. You've got to commit to that if you want to see everything.
I did watch the first scene of the first Iron Man last night while I was laying in bed, and then I fell asleep. So probably not the best. I'm sure that the Marvel producers intended for me to watch it high out of my mind at 1 a.m. on my phone while I was falling asleep. I'm sure that's how they intended for that media to be consumed. But, if I can get that much watched each night, I should be done in the next 150 years. So
yeah, I can't imagine starting like from the beginning right now and then and just going. Like, it could be cool, but I think that's a lot. Not to get too far off track, but that's kind of one of the big problems that Marvel in general has right now. But this game also has some problems we'll talk about a little bit later, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about who we are. Let's talk about what this show is, and then we're going to talk about some news. We'll talk about, and then we'll get into the run of show. So, but yeah, let's get started. Seth, we already got a little bit into who we are, but let's talk about who we are in this game, right? So, Marvel Rivals has been out. We've been playing since, I think, launch day, right?
So I think I played the day after launch day, but something like that, yeah.
So what are you like? What modes do you enjoy playing? Who are your favorite characters?
I just kind of in general love the game. It just kind of it has it all for me. The characters, I love the gameplay just in general, as long as things are going well. And even when they're not really, I'm still at some degree having fun. I, I just love a good old fashioned like domination fight. I think that's my favorite mode overall. Just capping that point, controlling it, taking space, kind of that balance there. When we're moving a point, that's fine. Convergence is fine. Convoy's fine. But I just love that static. That just all out balls to the wall fight.
Unless we're in Odin's Archive on Royal Palace, which is the most ass map in the entire game.
Just total ass. Just nuke the whole. I think that should be like a tank goal. Is just nuke the top floor, that big ring going in.
Yes.
And then cap point. But whatever. I'm much like you. Not to steal yours, but I'm definitely a support guy. I'd love that auto lock helps me a lot because I'm not the most accurate. However, in this game, I feel like I don't know if it's just the passion that motivates me, or if it's just that the game is kind of built a little bit differently. But I feel like I can float between roles a lot better here. I love Cloak and Dagger. I love Mantis. I love. Those are my two, I guess, biggest healers. A little bit of Luna Snow, but I love rolling Thor. I'll even roll like Captain America here and there when I'm playing quick play to feel good about it. I'm just there's not anybody that I don't like, and in fact, I have the platinum trophy of the game.
I know, which is
only, according to PS Plus, only 0.2% of the player base has. So that makes me, even though I can't get out of gold 2. I have something to feel good about. I'm in the elite somewhere, some way.
Yeah, I read some of those. Look, there's never been a hero shooter that I have played where I excel at DPS. I have terrible hands, like I'm classic, like no brain, no aim, like tank main kind of deal for the most part, even though I play a lot of support in this game. But so some of those DPS challenges that you've got to get that platinum, they just break my brain. There's no way. I told you, like, if the achievement for Wolverine was just hit somebody with the ult, I still wouldn't get it because I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm man enough to admit that I suck at this video game, but
there are lots of those that I don't know how I got them. It just kind of happened, and we're just gonna own it. It happened.
How many hours do you have in the game so far? Have you checked?
Last time I checked, like sometimes it takes a second to update. When I was upstairs playing like 10 minutes ago, I think I was at like 93 or so, 93, 95, which is a lot for me. It's been a while since I've had, I think, over 70, 80 hours in a game.
Well, because you're not a guy who's like just going to invest his time in one game. You play a lot of different stuff.
I bounce, yeah, and so I'm kind of struggling right now just to find the time to fit the different things I want to do in. I've been playing around with like Warhammer Space Marine 2, and that game is a lot of fun, and I've been trying to like build myself up in that game too, even though it's a lot more kind of insular, like solo kind of thing. I just like making my big dude and getting the fancy armor. Avowed has come out and all this other stuff, and I'm like,
wait, are you playing Avowed?
Not yet, no, but I've got to download it. I've been too busy. Every time I get on, it's either Rivals or Space Marine. So I'm between family and jobs and all that stuff. It's definitely hard to there's not enough time.
All right, forget those two things. I have been watching some Avowed gameplay. It looks fun, but maybe we'll resurrect P3P someday and we can talk about Avowed.
Sure.
But yeah, so no, I'm with you. I play a lot of support, and I've been playing a lot of comp in this, and I got really into competitive Overwatch for a while, but I was never one to do a lot of like solo queuing in ranked. But for some reason in this game, like, I don't know, like supports feel like you have a lot of impact in the game, and I feel like I can somewhat carry in a game. So I find myself solo queuing a lot in comp. And right now I'm in Plat 1 and hoping to get Diamond sometime this season, which would be cool. but yeah, playing a lot of Invisible Woman and Luna Snow are my two mains, and then I have like a weirdly serviceable Moon Knight, despite the fact that I'm not very much not a very good DPS player. I had that one like insane 45,000 damage game that we still lost somehow.
I remember. Oh well, that Ankh helps a lot with Moon Knight. That's half of Moon Knight's forte right there.
It does. The Ankh, and then just, you know what also helps? It helps when you are facing off against a Loki and he's setting all of its turrets like on point, and that just acts as like a bunch of other Ankhs for you because you're just bouncing your shit off of those stationary turrets as well. But yeah, playing a lot of comp, and like I have my PlayStation here at my setup because this is the desk I stream from. So like during like my lunch break and stuff, I'll just fire up quick play and stuff like that and play as well. I'm trying to play more just like different characters, because in these games I tend to just like get my characters and play my characters. You played with me in Overwatch. When I first got the game, I played a lot of Pharah. I played like 500 hours of Pharah and didn't touch any other character. And then I switched to Diva and didn't really touch any other character until I got into like Overwatch League and learned what like an off tank was. Then I started playing, you know, like Zarya and some of the other off tanks and stuff like that. So, but no, in this game, like I'm really invested in learning all the different characters and really excited about the competitive scene coming to fruition and stuff like that. And also just really excited about climbing for the first time ever. I think the highest I achieved in Overwatch was plat, but I never really dedicated myself to like grinding and climbing in that game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's who we are. Let's talk about a little bit about what this show is real quick. So this is Rival Banter. We're going to be doing this show live every single week over here on twitch.tv/itishoagie, unless you know, we might decide the show's popping off, we're going to create a dedicated Rivals channel or something like that. But for right now, we're over here on twitch.tv/itishoagie. We're also streaming over on TikTok at Hoagie, which is my name over there. If you're watching over on any of those platforms, feel free to chat and, you know, engage with what we're talking about. We want to find other people who love this game, talk about this game. This is mostly just an excuse for us to hang out and nerd out about a video game we both love for an hour and a half each week. So, but we're going to be talking about all things Marvel Rivals, but mostly the talk is going to be around like competitive, around balance, around game news, and like the esports scene. Like I said, I'm not much of like a Marvel universe guy, so I'm not really going to talk much lore. Seth, you might bring some of that angle. I don't know. You got some Marvel characters chilling behind you there on that shelf, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're back there.
How many Marvel, like what percentage of those would you say are Marvel?
So the first two shells, like the top two shells, are all Marvel.
Oh, wow.
They're all Marvel Legends, and they're kind of layered. I need to kind of tier them a little bit better, but I also just need a better display going on down here. So yeah, I definitely enjoy. I'm a big giant kid.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are on a video game podcast.
Hey, look, man, you got to stay young somehow, you know? And if this is how we decide to do it, this is how we decide to do it. But, so you might bring some of the lore to the show. I'm not going to be the one that's sitting here talking about, you know, is Magneto Scarlet Witch's dad or is he not, or, you know, whatever. Maybe not. I haven't read some of the comics, though. I did get a Marvel Unlimited subscription, and I've been reading, like, one of the X-Men reboots, one of the Avengers reboots, stuff like that, so... Maybe.
I think this whole game is just a way to push Marvel Unlimited, but whatever. We can get there too one day.
Yeah, and this new Daredevil series that's coming out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, wow, it is sneaking up.
So, did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to bring to the show, Seth?
No, not in particular. I just enjoy talking about the game. Like you said, this is a way to hang out. We are separated. We're literally on different coasts. So there's a lot of distance between us, and you know, this is the only way I really get to see you face to face, ever, you know, other than every couple years after a plane ride or two. So I'm just down to talk, and if it turns into a show about something totally different, we'll make it work.
Yep, we're going to be writing Magneto fanfic before it's all said and done. All right, man. Well, let's jump into some topics then. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. And it's unfortunate that we decided to start this podcast this week because we got to start with some miserable news. And we're going to start with a tweet from Wario, or not a tweet, but a Blue Sky post from Wario64 over here, because NetEase has decided that they are going to lay off their entire US-based team, and there's some reports on this that you can find elsewhere online. This was kind of the breaking news post from 11 o'clock this morning. This is from Thaddeus Sasser, who was the game director here stateside. I'm not going to read this whole post. Actually, let me read a decent amount of this post, just to give him his moment here. But Thaddeus Sasser, this is a LinkedIn post. He says, "This is such a weird industry. My stellar, talented team just helped deliver an incredibly successful new franchise in Marvel Rivals for NetEase Games, and we're just laid off. Oh well, times are tough all over. Let's find these incredible people new jobs because we all need to eat, right?" And then he gives a shout out to Gary McGee, who was a level designer on the game. Tell some stories there about Gary. And then we have Jack Burrow over here. I'm sorry. We're rusty on the whole podcast thing. Gary McGee was a technical designer, not a level designer. Jack Burrow was the level designer. He says, "Hey folks, just got laid off from my job working on Marvel Rivals with NetEase. What an enormous pleasure to work with my American coworkers who joined me in this sad culling. Just couldn't dodge the big boot, I guess, no matter how big the success of the gig. So now I'm seeking a new role and would appreciate your support. If you hear of any opportunities or just want to catch up, please send me a message or comment below. I'd love to reconnect." So Seth, obviously not the kind of news we want to open up the show with, but obviously it needs to be top of the news story because this is a game that made $130 million in its first month. It's on pace to be $1 billion game within its first year. And
a free-to-play game that did that, by the way.
A free-to-play game that did that. So, what was your thoughts when you first saw this and having some time to absorb it? What are your thoughts?
I mean, and we haven't had a lot of time because, it really just happened. It's pretty breaking news today. But, my God, that Marvel license must be astronomical or something because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of cheddar for a team to get laid off with something so successful going on. It just boggles the mind. From everything I've read kind of outside of this, it sounds like NetEase hasn't made a response, at least that we've read up to this time. So, until we know more, it's hard to say, but it just kind of reeks of everything that, EA does and lots of other companies in this industry. It's just whatever they can do to kind of make that whoever's sitting up at the top tier a little bit richer. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I understand, this was like you said, it was sort of the EA playbook of not that the game wasn't successful, but that the game wasn't as successful as the company was maybe necessarily hoping for. I also think, so one thing about me, for those listening in who don't know who I am, I've been working in the games industry now for 5 years, and if there's anything I've learned in the 5 years that I've worked in this games industry, reflecting on my time podcasting about the industry and my time at P3P, it's that you don't really ever have a clue what's going on behind the scenes at these companies. And we spent years and years on P3P speculating as to what was happening in these boardrooms or these proverbial Zoom meetings or whatever. And the fact of the matter is that you can never really pinpoint what the motivations are or read the tea leaves about what this means for the long-term success of a game or whatever. An American studio is an expensive thing to have. NetEase is a company that's based in China. They have their own development teams over there that are working on this game. They released their update videos that we're going to be talking about later today that featured a lot of their Chinese team members and stuff like that too. So, there's no telling what the reasoning behind this is. But nonetheless, it doesn't make it any harder. With that in mind, it doesn't make it any harder for me to say, fuck companies that do this. $130 million after I know how hard game development is and how hard it is to get games across the finish line. And for a team to dedicate the years that it took to get this game across that finish line, and for it to be received as well as it's been received, not just from the standpoint of people who love Marvel playing this game and enjoying it because they're getting to, pilot their favorite characters, but for guys like me who are big fans of hero shooters, who love this from the perspective of it's just a really good hero shooter. Like, this game is a technical, like, marvel in a lot of stances. I mean, no pun intended, right? But what was the article that came out last week that was talking about like the technical achievement of like the Strange portal and stuff like that, and how you remember what?
I've not read that, but I mean, it all makes sense. I mean, that's just like to be in a time where we can make that happen and try to trick somebody into falling off the map.
Yeah, like it's just this talented team who blood, sweat, and tears put into this game to make it happen, and to see the fruits of their labor over these first 2 months and how successful this game has been, to just get blindsided by this is just insane to me, like, and it's a brutal industry, and it's brutal because of there's only one motivation to me that makes sense, and that's greed, right? Like, Marvel license can be as expensive as it can be or whatever, but these are the people that made this game what this game is, and tomorrow they're going to be logging onto LinkedIn, and they're going to be pulling up their resumes, and they're going to be out job hunting when they just helped deliver a super successful game. And yeah, I don't know. It hit like a gut punch because I love this game, and it always makes it a little harder to support something when a company goes out of their way to screw people over like that.
Definitely.
And I know you were talking before stream that you had a little bit of trouble, like, logging on to say, like, to play the game this afternoon because of this.
Yeah, I just kind of thought, like, there was a time back when we started our old podcast. If you remember, if you're a listener that's been around for a while, around the start of the PS4 generation, Xbox One, PS4, there was a time where, like, when you bought a game, you just didn't know if it was going to work for a week, because it was the time where, like, it was the first generation where we really had, like, day one patches and updates, and just the games would launch broken, and it happened all the time. And so we kind of got to a place where we were like, well, we're not going to pre-order games anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we used to go into our GameStop in town every Monday. We lived at the same place and just kind of shop around, get whatever, make our pre-orders like they begged us to. And like now, I still it's very rare that I'll actually pre-order a game. The only way I do it is if I just like am that into the franchise, if I'm that into whatever it is. But again, it's still really rare. So I'm a vote with your wallet kind of guy. I had trouble logging into this game today just because I was like, well, do I want to support this company? And I think I'm going to have to explore that a little bit more. I don't want to necessarily like just stop playing at the time, but there are other ways, whether it's not spending money on the battle passes, just like committing to not. I haven't spent any money on skins yet, but maybe just kind of continuing to not do that. I'm not sure, but that's just something that I'm definitely going to think about a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my first thought too. Was like, is this something I want to continue to support after this? But I'm also of this mind that, like, look, man, there's not much I can do as an individual that's going to like impact these decisions that are going to get these people their jobs back or anything like this. And it's also just this cruel world where I'm trying to grasp onto any little thing that's going to bring me some kind of joy, right? And like, this is a game that's brought me a lot of joy over the last couple months. And, I hate to see the devs going through this. But I also know that there are other devs that are working hard on this game still, and are going to continue to work hard on this game. And do I, pull the rug out from under them with my support with playing the game or spending, which I haven't spent a lot of money on the game to begin with, but it's a conundrum because there's still people like these devs that have just been laid off who are still working at this company, still working hard to make something cool. And this is something, like I said, that brings me joy. But yeah, it's definitely something that's challenging, to say the least. So welcome to the first and last episode of Rival Banter, a Marvel Rivals podcast. Yeah. But no, any other thoughts on this story? What do you think that this means maybe for like the game at large? Do you think this changes anything in terms of NetEase's like commitment to the long-term support of this game? Because we're going to talk about the videos that came here in a little bit, and it seems like they still are pretty committed.
I mean, it's impossible to say for sure, but yeah, I mean, the timing probably plays into the whole situation in some way, I'm sure, because they are doing this days before that mid-season update and the addition of the new map and new characters that we're going to talk about in just a second. But so I'm sure, again, it all kind of combines together in some way. One has to do with the other, but I don't know. I mean, they're hinting at characters in the future. They are, I don't know. Like, I'm sure, like, this thing seems like it's too big to just go away for right now. But of course, you never know.
And again, like, we don't know exactly what the American team was responsible for in terms of were they the ones that were kind of like building the foundation that now maybe the Chinese team is going to be doing like the ongoing content updates on top of that foundation or what? Like, you know, you see titles like Level Designer and stuff like that, and you start to think like, okay, well, those are the people that are like making the maps and, you know, that sort of stuff. And those are people that need to be there for the ongoing content, but you don't know how those are divvied up. You don't know how much of the pre-launch responsibility was with America and how much of the ongoing responsibility was planned to go to the Chinese team or what. But yeah, it's a whole, it's a sticky situation, and it's something that we're never really probably going to ever know the full story behind. And it's like you said, it's really it's a wait and see. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate story that we have to kick off the show with, because we were really hoping to kind of just celebrate the game and have fun talking about it. But this is just the reality of this industry. It's the reality of this world that we're in right now, where corporations are just trying to find every little sliver they can take off the top to, you know, make their margins a little bit better. But you know, we're going to continue to cover the game, continue to see where it goes, and, you know, if the content seems light, the quality seems to be going down, this might be the genesis point to be able to point to say that's where it all began, right? So all right, well, there's no I just moved my camera on TikTok there. Well, there's no great way to transition out of a story like that. Those are human lives, people who, like I said, tomorrow are going to be updating resumes, applying for jobs, hope for the best for them to land on their feet. There's no non-awkward way to transition to another story, but we're going to do it anyway, because we're going to move on to talk about the game, because it's also a big week for the game itself. Season 1.5 is coming on Friday, Seth. We're halfway through season 1 now, and there's a lot of information for us to get through. So everybody buckle in. We're 30 minutes into this show, and we haven't even started scratching the surface of the news for this game. So, dude, where do we even want to start here? I'm going to pull this video up, and I'm going to mute it and just have it playing kind of in the background while we talk, because they revealed a lot of information in this video. Starting with... let's see, what did they start with in this? Oh, they started with the Thing in Human Torch. That would be a good place for us to start, Seth. So we got our first kind of official look at the Thing in Human Torch. No official word on what their abilities are, but the first kind of look at gameplay for them, and you can kind of piece together from the leaks that we've seen in the past on what these abilities and stuff are. So let's talk about them to begin with. Who do you want to start with?
Oh, I don't know. I actually saw today, just in like Facebook ads, they had some kind of closer looks at some of the abilities of the characters.
Oh, did they?
And they did, yeah. And I don't know that it necessarily discussed them, but you at least got to kind of see a little bit here. And so yeah, so you haven't seen that.
The only thing I've seen are. Hold on, let me pull these videos up. If these are what you're talking about, I've seen these, but I haven't seen like a list breakdown of the abilities.
Oh, no. Okay, just making sure.
Like,
Yeah,
we can
so
start with this Human
I mean,
Torch video if you want.
sure. I mean, they look awesome. Like I just glancing at them and seeing kind of what they can do, it looks like both of these characters are going to be a lot of fun to mess around with. Human Torch looks fast. He looks furious. I can't wait to kind of get him with a Storm and just see how that plays out. Even if I'm not the Human Torch, just playing Storm looks like it'd be a lot of fun with him. The thing looks like he's again just like a monster, just just powerful. We had some speculation before, just kind of talking while we were playing games or between matches, like how cool would it be if the thing could like.
Oh, your audio cut, or did my audio cut out?
Giant ass rock and just throw it, whatever. We don't have that.
Say that.
But kind of watching.
Say that one more time.
What did you say?
You cut out for me. Say that one more time.
We talked before about how cool it would be if the thing had like some kind of environmental destruction factor, and how like that could play into his gameplay. Maybe like he picks up a big ass rock, throws it across, and does some damage. We don't have that, but we do. I noticed like it seemed like he could like really easily destroy environments, and that kind of goes along with like that makes me think of destroying that top layer on Odin's Archive. You know what I'm saying? Just get rid of that thing right at the start, and just go from there. Right?
Yeah. Sorry, the video player on the Marvel site is terrible.
That's what I wasn't sure if it was me or if it was that.
No, it's that. But yeah, so we have some leaks around the abilities for the thing. So basically his primary fire is kind of this like quick succession of punches, and then his secondary fire is a slower, more powerful punch that you just saw there. Then he kind of has this support ability where he'll leap in, and you can see there after he leaps in, he's surrounded by rocks because he gets a damage reduction, and then if he has teammates around him where he leapt, they'll also get some sort of a damage reduction. He also sort of has this like I don't know if you've played Overwatch since Mauga came out, but I think that's his name. But he has this ability where he like can run forward really quickly, and he kind of knocks stuff out of his path as he's running forward. One thing that I read from the leak that sounded really interesting was he has some sort of like, he leaves a trail behind him that has like some sort of displacement mitigation, which there's a lot of like soft CC in Marvel Rivals, right? Like a lot of knockbacks and stuns and stuff like that. And so if he leaves a trail that then you can stand in and kind of mitigate some of that knockback, I think that's a really cool kind of like support crossover, like hybrid feature of a tank that could be really cool. And then his ultimate ability is he just knocks up everybody that's in front of him, and they showed that briefly here in this video. But yeah, I mean, he seems like some standard like tank fare with some kind of creative support abilities. Here's the ultimate ability for him, but right here he punches the ground and knocks everybody up in front of him, and then he gets that big punch in, which looks awesome.
That's a good way to end a match there. Like I can see that happening now.
One thing that's a little disappointing to me is the only team up that we know that he has right now is with Wolverine, and it's the same exact team up that the Hulk has. He can pick up Wolverine and just throw him like a baseball. So I was hoping to see maybe a little more creativity there, but overall he looks like a really fun tank, a little less mobile than say like Hulk or something like that, but brawly and looks like fun. But yeah, let's see if this video will load for us now.
Look how many fireballs he has that like just kind of at a glance without knowing too much of anything. Like I think about Mantis, she has like her little leaves or whatever. I'm terrible at remembering the names of the stuff, but her leaves we'll go with. They're like 5. Look at all those fireballs. They just like, it just looks like there's a lot to be done there.
Yeah. He looks like he has a lot to manage. I like that he's got this the sort of like storm flying ability where he just has like an infinite float. One of the things that I like, you can see it in this clip. So he has these kind of fire wells that he throws out that form these AoE, and then if you throw them close enough together, they form these fire walls. So you're going to get like area control out of him. You're going to be able to like, you know, defend chokes with him to an extent. And then his ultimate ability is, this little like fire tornado that he can throw out, and then it will combine with the Storm ult to turn her hurricane into a fire hurricane. And dude, this seems like one of those characters similar to Spider-Man where people are just going to pick him up because he looks fucking cool to play. You know?
Right. I mean, I don't know who I'm more excited to play, because I feel like the Thing's more my play style, but Human Torch just looks fun as hell. Like I'm definitely gonna have to play around with both.
I'm really interested to see what the damage numbers look like on the Human Torch, because one of the just classic kind of things when it comes to hero shooters is that when new heroes come out, they're just a little more OP than everybody else, and he seems to just have a lot of ability to create zone DPS, like AoE DPS and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what the math looks like for him when the like full details for his character kit get shown. And it'll just be interesting to see what he looks like in the meta, especially if, you know, we'll talk somewhat about like some of the changes that got leaked for other characters in the game, but it looks like Storm is still going to be a pretty strong DPS in the meta. And with two characters now kind of flying high above the sky, is that going to make characters like Punisher and like Winter Soldier, you know, hit scan characters a little more valuable? You know, there's going to be some buffs with Black Widow coming in to try to deal with some of that assault from the sky, because it'll just be interesting to see how he shakes up the meta, because Storm already has a pretty strong team up with Thor, and now a second strong team up. Well, seeing it once we see how it plays out, you know, could make for some interesting meta shifts in season 1.5.
Definitely.
Any other thoughts on these two new characters before we move on?
I don't think so. I think I'm ready.
I'm ready too, man. I'm just ready for some changes. Let's talk about this real quick, because one of the things that they mentioned in the update video that they put out this morning was kind of their approach to balance patches. One of the things that they don't really do, like, so I worked in esports for a while. I worked mainly with League of Legends, which gets a patch. That game gets updated very frequently with lots and lots of changes, meta changes in that game every couple weeks or whatever. This game is very different from that. You know, we haven't really had any kind of balance updates all season. All the patches have really just been kind of like bug fixes, adding skins and those sorts of things. And they said that that's kind of the approach they want to continue to take with patches moving forward. But they do want to have a little bit of willingness to maybe get in there and address things that are glaring if there's like a character that's super OP in the middle of the season. But for the most part, they're gonna be a little hands off when it comes to balancing mid-season. Seth, I know you're not too heavy into like a big competitive background, but how do you feel about that? Would you rather like a dev go in and meddle every couple weeks with the balance, or are you cool with this approach that like every half season?
I think it's kind of hard, like, to, I don't know, like, you get used to one thing and then all of a sudden the meta totally shifts in, you know, every couple of weeks. It's hard to play the game that way, so I kind of appreciate this approach. I could see how some people might say it would kind of stagnate the game a little bit, but I think the fact that we're only going, 45 days between character launches, between mid-season and in-season updates, things like that, that's not a huge amount of time, although it may seem like that to some people. And again, like, they're not saying, I think, that they're not doing anything, but, like, you know, bug fixes, things like that here and there, any glaring issues. I don't know, that's not a, you know, 30, 45 days, that's not really a huge amount of time to, I feel like, play around with something and get used to that meta before things shift a little bit.
Yeah. Looking at the changelog, and like I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit, like, there's something like 25 characters are getting some sort of adjustment in this leak patch note or something like that. That's a lot of changes, right? And there's really no way to predict exactly how all of those changes are going to form into some kind of a meta. Like, I think kind of this 3 strategist meta that evolved over the first season was a little unexpected for the dev team, and I think, you know, they talked about how they're trying to address some of that with the changes to like support ults in this update and stuff like that. And so I think until you get something in the hands of hundreds of thousands of players like, you know, you have in Marvel, you don't really know what these big patches are going to look like. So I like their willingness to say, we're willing to jump in and address something if it's glaring, right? We're not going to let goats be the meta for a year and a half, right? Like Overwatch did. You know, if there's something that's sticking out like a sore thumb in the first couple weeks, we'll go in and we'll tweak some numbers. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'd rather have a bit of an opportunity to like figure out the meta, to understand kind of what I'm up against, you know, each patch, and figure it out and start to feel comfortable. And then I think that makes it also easier for me to like read the patch notes when they come out and kind of theory craft what's going to be strong and understand what's going to change, because I kind of feel like I have a firmer grasp on the meta as it stands now. So yeah, I like the approach. And I think the devs have shown a pretty good track record so far of really listening to the community about the things that they want to see. You know, they did that with like the rank reset and stuff like that, when the people were like, why are we going back 4 tiers at mid-season and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the patch will turn out, and, you know, if they see something that needs changed and changes that, you know, that's cool. Let's see, what else did we get here? We got our first look at the new map for Central Park. Seth, I just learned yesterday that Dracula was a part of the MCU. I still don't know what that's all about. You care to explain?
We had to have that conversation. I'm not the biggest. There's only so much Marvel lore that I know. I do not have the Dracula action figure, although I do know that he released in a recent Marvel Legends wave. But I mean, this is, when you hear Central Park, this is not what you expect, right? And I like just kind of hearing it, I was like, okay, cool. And when I clicked the link earlier, when I saw it even come up on my Facebook feed and watched it a little bit further, I was like, oh,
it's a very gothic Central Park.
Dracula's castle's there, man. And there's a lot going on there. And just watching like Castlevania over like the last couple weeks, I was like, hell yeah, like this looks like a lot of fun too. There's a lot seems to be going on here. I think we talked before, as of right now, I don't think we know what kind of map this is going to be. But, I mean, it looks like there's some variety here. Like, there's some inside the castle, there's some outside the castle. I could see this being a really cool map for really any kind of game mode.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for domination. I want a new domination map. And I feel like I read somewhere that this was going to be a domination map, but yeah, I'm all about this aesthetic, this kind of like gothic, you know, Dracula's castle kind of thing. Love the art, love the design. When I heard that it was going to be Central Park, I thought it was going to be just kind of in that same vein as like the Midtown map that we got for this season, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
same here.
I wasn't super excited about it.
The stairs kind of give me like that's what kind of makes me feel like that kind of verticality, the levels to if there's room to actually play around with that, and it's not just an aesthetic. I think that would be a lot of fun for Dom. Did you ever play any of the I don't even know if it's still a game mode, but that what was it called, Doomsday or something like that? The free for all game mode. Yeah, that was on and
the one with like the
Dr.
portals. Yeah,
Doctor Strange's house, the Sanctum Sanctorum. That was a lot of fun, and I feel like you know, a more competitive game mode in an environment like that, maybe a little bit more sprawled out with a little bit more room, could be a lot of fun. Did you catch this this reference right here? The guy at the end. Have you heard who they're saying that he probably is?
No, he looks like Lucian from League of Legends. I don't know who it is.
they're teasing that he may be Blade. I don't know how much
Oh.
people have looked into that, but just kind of like before the podcast started, I was looking around, and that maybe Blade could be a different take on another character. For all we know, he could be Dracula himself or somebody, but Blade would be pretty cool.
Well, Blade is like a vampire hunter, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that
Daywalker.
so that makes sense. Again, guys, look, it's episode 1. First of all, we're a little rusty on the whole podcast front. We're going to figure that part out. Second of all, you guys are just going to learn that I'm going to ask a lot of stupid questions about who these characters are. All right, I don't know. I just know the thing is big and he's made of rocks from some sort of botched space mission.
He's a big rock guy. It's fun.
But yeah, I'm interested to see more. I'm the way they're putting out information for this game is a little strange to me. Like, they tease information and then they put out a little bit of information, and it never feels like they give us the complete information about anything until it's like fully out in the game. And so like telling us that this map is coming but not telling us what like game mode the map is, to me, is like really strange. So but yeah, I'm looking forward to
a little unusual.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it in game and checking it out. Let's see, what are some other things that they talked about in this video before we move on to the leaked patch notes here. So yeah, they touched on some of the competitive mode adjustments again. So last week they announced that they were going to be doing a soft ranked reset in the midseason, and they were going to do a 4-tier reset at midseason. And then same day they went back on that and said, never mind, we're not doing a ranked reset at midseason. Instead, we'll just do the full ranked reset of 6 tiers at the beginning of the season for season 2. Let me give my thoughts on that real quick, Seth, and then if you have any thoughts, I'll let you go. I really appreciate that that NetEase realizes that not everybody is just some streamer that sits down and plays this game for 12 hours a day, right? Like, if you're going to tie rewards to your ranked mode, be like favorable to the people who just log on for a couple hours each night and play. I think that makes sense when it comes to like the season rewards that they're showing here and stuff like that. I think I like the fact that they're not just being kind of fully dictated. And I think that also is a reason that they're not patching the game every 2 weeks too. Because it's like, look, we don't want people logging on to a new game every time they get a chance to play it, right? Like, so I appreciate that. It's a constant balance with games like this. How much are you catering to the top 500 players? How much are you catering to the streamers that play 24 hours a day versus how are you catering to the casuals, to the free to play players, to the guys in bronze? Like, and I think they're trying to strike that balance, and you can argue one way or the other about which way they're leaning towards, but I like that they came back same day and just said, all right, guys, we hear you. We're not going to make you grind again for these rewards. Just play 10 ranked matches and don't suck it up for those 10, and you'll get to keep your gold rewards if you're in gold, So
yeah, I had only been rolling competitive for like a week or two, I think, or maybe 2 weeks when that came out, and I was like, oh, like seriously, I'm back to bronze for me or whatever it was at the time. But I'm glad I have a little bit more time to keep on climbing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I think you can earn the season 1, like the first half of season 1 rewards still in season 1.5, so you can still get your like Invisible Woman skin even if you haven't made it to gold yet, so you can keep grinding and stuff like that. So kudos to the devs for that, for considering the guys who have jobs and families, as much as I would encourage you to forget about both of those things. Let's see. They have more invitationals that are coming. We had the Oceania Invitational over the weekend. I got to watch a little bit of that. They announced that they're going to be doing more of those in the future. I'm really excited to see how the esports scene for this game evolves, because I do think, as much as I think they're trying to make this game really approachable for casual audience, I think there is the backbone there for a really fun competitive game. And then they started talking about some of their goals for the balance adjustments, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time here, audience. So buckle in. Seth, did you get a chance to look through this giant ass leak of patch notes?
Not too much. Are we on the 1.5 patch notes?
Yeah. And we'll kind of frame this through what they were saying. For
it kind of goes along with what you mean, like the buffs and nerfs, like
yeah.
the show notes, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, and overall, I go like I think you're starting to say it goes along with what we were saying before, how like they give a lot of vague information. Kind of like looking at this as an English teacher, I'm like, well, there's some specific, there's some percentages, there's some numbers here, but like looking around, Invisible Woman increased ult cost. What the hell does that mean?
Hey, real quick before, so this is just my summary. If you click in there's math attached to every adjustment. So
okay, gotcha. My bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'll share my screen here so you can kind of see from the website I pulled from. Yeah, I was just kind of summarizing what I didn't want to add in all the math just because it's a lot. But this is a leak, right? But let's talk a little bit about the kind of the philosophy first, because this is what they were talking about on the video. First of all, let's talk at the bottom of this list. They talk about the strategist in that video, and kind of their approach to the balance here. And I was really surprised that they talked about how with this patch they really wanted to tackle the rise of the triple strategist meta. Did you watch the video and catch them talking about that? Because I was like, that just seemed like a weird place to start.
Yeah, like if it works, it works. I mean, why nip it in the bud? I guess like especially since they seem like they're against role queue. They seem like they want people to have that freedom to play around with different metas. But I mean, I don't know to cull it that soon.
Well, it's that, but it's also just the whole like I feel like the zeitgeist around the game is still just like it's 2-2-2, right? Like if you want to be successful, you just play 2-2-2, and I still feel like the three strategist meta is still very fringe when it comes to like what people consider to be meta strategy. It like anytime we're in a game and we go three strategists, I'm like, okay, it can work. Like it can work, But I did like what they said about how it just becomes frustrating to play because it becomes a little more grindy when you're going up against like a Luna, Invisible Woman, Cloak and Dagger ult stack, right? Because then they're negating they're basically negating all of your DPS ults every single time that you have one up, right? So I get that, but their way of targeting this was we're just going to increase the ult cost for every single team saving ultimate in the game, basically. So Cloak and Dagger honestly, it gets the most adjustments to her ult, and we're not going to go through every single individual one of these, but Cloak and Dagger's ult cost goes up. She's not going to be able to stack her ult anymore, so you're not going to be able to fly it back and forth and stack the healing output on it. And it's only going to last for 8 seconds versus 10 seconds. So a lot of adjustments there. And then the vulnerability ratio of Fear Cloak to enemies has been increased from 20% to 28%. So a lot of adjustments to Cloak and Dagger's ult there, which you had to know this was coming, right? Cloak and Dagger was just one of those characters that it didn't make sense not to have her in a competitive game, and you don't ever want to have a character that it doesn't make sense not to have. So it'll be interesting to see how these turn out. But yeah, Luna Snow gets another ultimate cost increase. Loki gets an ultimate cost increase because he can just copy, Invisible Woman, Cloak and Dagger. Invisible Woman gets a cost increase, and then Mantis just gets an upper limit decrease of the additional health that her ultimate provides from 100 to 75. So lots and lots of nerfs to the strategist role. One buff to the strategist role, though, Adam Warlock, increased damage, increased healing output for Soul Link. So probably going to see some more Adam Warlock. As a Cloak and Dagger main, Seth, do you feel personally targeted by this?
I mean, you hate to see it. I feel like, especially when I'm layering that ult, like counter ulting against like another Cloak and Dagger, I feel like that it doesn't last long enough with 10 seconds. So to see it cut down to 8, I mean, it is what it is. We'll have to make it work. The only way to kind of see how it's going to work is to play it out. But I've still got love for my almost said my girl, but you've got to consider both sides of the coin. For the squad.
I mean, I think they're still going to be a powerful pick. I think, it's still gonna, the auto aim on the healing and the output there, like there's still enough to her kit that she's gonna still be very, very present inside of the meta.
Yeah, she's still viable for sure.
I honestly thought they were just gonna revert back to 3 procs of her ult rather than 4. Like I thought that would just be the simplest change.
Yeah, I mean, it may all shake out to be about the same.
Yeah. The other thing that they mentioned in the video was they wanted to kind of navigate away from this kind of Vanguard, like 2 shield power that we're seeing, because the 2 most commonly selected tanks right now are Magneto and Doctor Strange, so they've kind of reduced their survivability. They've increased Magneto's damage output, so his projectile damage on magnetic orb gets an increase. Again, all of this is from a leak. I think some like the Chinese site accidentally put something out and then took it down, so this is all translated from that. But it aligns with what was in the official video. So Magneto gets a little bit of a damage increase, but the energy consumption per second for his Iron Curtain has increased as well. So, you have to spend energy in order to use a shield. So you're going to have to spend more energy in order to do that. And then Doctor Strange just gets a flat base health reduction from 650 to 600. So, I mean, I think that makes sense. We see a lot of diversity in Gold and Plat with tanks, but watching as much competitive as I have over the last couple weeks, it really is just Magneto and Doctor Strange that you're seeing.
Yeah.
So I'm not a Captain America main. I don't even know if I've played Captain America a single time, but did you read about these changes to Captain America, Seth? Do you understand these? So he'll be able to use absolute will during his jump, so he gets that defensive ability, and the projectile speed of his shield is going to get an increase, and his ultimate cooldown has been reduced, and the ricochet speed is actually pretty significant. Like, so going out at 60 meters, it's gone from 60 meters per second to 80, and coming back it's gone from 100 meters per second to 150. So
so he's one of the characters I first started playing when I first started up the game, and he's definitely, he's got some advantages. He's got some good stuff going for him. He doesn't seem like he's the most competitively viable character on that tank roster right now. Whenever I see a Captain America, I kind of have like a little sigh to myself for a second, because he's got a few things going. He's got that little shield. He's got some speed. But I don't think he has a ton of power. So, and typically when I see this Captain America's, it could be a skill issue thing, but they don't typically tend to have the high kill counts that you see like with a Thor or some of the other tanks on the roster. So I think even if they're not buffing his like power, they kind of are in some ways with that speed, like being able to ricochet that shield around a little bit more, or just kind of to get it to the enemy faster. I know I tend to miss when I sling it whenever I play him in quick play or whatever here and there. So again, like I'm glad. Hopefully, this is them showing him some love and trying to get him to be a little bit more competitive moving forward.
Yeah, I think Captain America's in a strange spot because, from what I understand, again, I'm not a Captain America player. Like the players that know how to play him well take advantage of like his animation cancels and like some other stuff that isn't necessarily like an official part of his kit, but just kind of like it's a feature, not a bug kind of deal. Like the result of just his design or whatever. And I think so Melee. So I used to work at Golden Guardians. One of our big games that we competed in was Melee. And Melee has this mechanic that I just called L canceling. So do you know anything about this, Seth?
I probably will when you start talking about it, but I may just not know the term. So
basically all L canceling is that you have a certain like frame window when you're in the air right before you hit the ground, that if you hit it right, you're able to instantly skip like all of your landing lag, and you're able to input your next inputs a lot faster. And so every single pro knows how to L cancel every time they jump, and there's no reason to not do it, right? And so
I think there's another term for that, because can't you do that in Ultimate too?
I think you can do it in Ultimate, but it's different in Ultimate.
Yeah.
Okay. Like in Melee, it is just one of those things that every character needs to do it 100% of the time, and it makes no sense. And like Melee purists are like, it shouldn't be taken out of the game, like it needs to be there, blah blah blah. But it's like, it really is just this weird gatekeeping thing where it's like there's no reason to not do it, and so it's just this weird skill issue that keeps people from being able to play the game. When you're relying on something like animation canceling for a character like Captain America to be viable, you're putting this like artificial barrier in the skill issue for people to be able to pick him up and be competitive with him. So if it's the case that in order to do this well with Cap, you're gonna have to learn to do that stuff, unfortunately no amount of like math changes are gonna help to fix Cap. You're gonna have to eventually address the design of the character, but it'll be interesting to see how these adjustments impact his place in the meta, because right now I think he's the lowest pick rated tank in the game, maybe the lowest win rated tank in the game or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how these shake out. I'm trying to think any other interesting tank changes here. Groot just gets some increased distance for his Thorn Wall. Thor gets some tweaks to his Rune Awakening. And Venom, instead of knocking players up on his ultimate, he's instead going to knock them inward, which I think is a cool change. So, you know, he's going to get a little more utility out of his ultimate there. And his ultimate charge is going to get reduced too, because I feel like it takes Venom forever to charge his ult right now. So.
Yeah, and for not a lot of bang for the buck. Hulk is actually ranked 1% lower on this list.
Oh, that's right. They shared the list.
Surprising.
I know, because I feel like Hulk has a lot more like mobility and utility. He's got like hard CC in his kit. You know, he's got point stall in his kit. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just freaking people, man.
I don't want to go line by line through all of these DPS buffs. Was there anything that's jumped out to you on this list before I say my piece?
I don't know in particular, and I do need to probably start wrapping up here soon, fairly soon too. DPS wise, that Iron Man increased damage of repulsor beam, I feel like that thing's pretty strong as it is. So that may, we'll see how that goes. But it doesn't make me anxious to play against any Iron Man anytime soon. I like to see Mr. Fantastic get a little bit of love. Hawkeye getting some more health, I feel like, is definitely needed, although that sniping ability is pretty tough if you get a pretty accurate Hawkeye on there, so making him a little bit meatier could be fun, could be cool. Again, it kind of makes me scared to go up against him though a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm doing some quick math here. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 DPS who are getting buffs. We have 2 DPS who are getting nerfs. And we have 1 DPS who's getting just some adjustments, right? That to me seems like a bit of power creep across the board on the DPS. And some of the change logs on some of these characters are pretty big. I mean, Iron Fist is getting a number of like math changes to his stuff. He's getting like an increase in his base health. He's getting, similar to Wolverine, he's going to be getting some like max health damage, like percentage damage in his kit as well. Mr. Fantastic is going to be getting a lot of different adjustments to like his magic field on some of his abilities and some adjustments to his ultimate. One of the things that I thought was interesting was the Black Widow change, going from like an 8 like an 8 bullet clip to I think a 15 bullet clip or something like that. I think was the adjustment that they made for her.
It does. Going for that trophy, it did seem. I mean, I kind of get that. Although again, like that definitely, like that you said, that power creep. That's a big difference. That's almost double.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Black Widow is always going to be a hard character, I think, in Rivals, because I think the devs for Rivals have already talked about how they really want to stay away from like one-hit knockout characters. And for Hawkeye and Black Widow, for the type of characters that they are, I mean, on the surface, like these sniper-esque characters, it's really hard to design a kit for them that doesn't have a one-hit KO. And if that's not what they're going to be designed to do, then how do you start to balance them? I don't know if doubling her clip size is really the thing that's going to start to make her more viable in the meta. I don't think it's good. I mean, she is the lowest pick rated character in the game. She's the lowest win rated character in the game right now. I think pretty much across rankings as well. So I don't know how much that change with her is gonna move the needle. I'm interested to see if that really is what's impacting. I guess the thought is you can hip fire more frequently and maybe fight up close and use her kick and, you know, start to get up close and personal with people, but we'll see. Finally, they're getting that Moon Knight bug to ult out of the game, which has been in since day one with the weird like double hits on certain procs and stuff like that. Also just decreasing the amount, the speed of the projectiles in his ults, I think is huge, because sometimes he doesn't even get a word out before you start dying to it. So yeah, I'm interested to see. I think if we're talking about characters we're going to see more of, I think Iron Fist we're going to start to see more of is maybe more of like a tank buster rather than in the backline with his percentage max health damage that he's going to be getting. I think we will probably start to see more Iron Man. I think the Storm nerfs make a lot of sense because she was already a pretty strong character before the buffs, and then they just kind of overtuned her, and now she's like super strong. So yeah. All right. Well, I know you said we should be wrapping it up here soon, so let's hit on this last topic real quick, and then we will wrap this up. We were playing with my nephew earlier this week, and we were talking about characters we want to see come to Marvel Rivals. I mean, there's a couple characters in the Marvel universe, like 5 or 6. What characters do you want to see?
It's hard, and the big part of that conversation that we talked about the other day is that like so many characters are kind of samey. Like, you know, if I look back on this shelf, I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 different Hulks, and they're all pretty much the same. They are all the same Hulk. It's just in different forms, right? So whether that's like a skin difference or whether like, because he has like kind of a split personality thing going on. So like you could argue that they could be different characters in some way, because like one of them has a machine gun and dresses like a gangster from the 40s. And then there's Red Hulk, who's a different character and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of potential. Maybe like getting the Sam Wilson Captain America, and there would be something kind of different, with like some land and air capability would be a lot of fun. Looking around to get like maybe a Hulkbuster Iron Man built in there in some way, like, you know, big but with a big tank with some Iron Man powers too. I don't know how you justify that with an Iron Man existing already. There's got to be some way. But then just some of the fun characters, I think, like, I don't know, Carnage would be, I could see him maybe being somewhere between like a DPS and a strategist, something like that, especially with some of the comic book lore there is with him out there. Null, the symbiote god, would be an awesome tank, and this is probably really cliche, but just Thanos in general, I would be excited. Not Infinity Gauntlet Thanos, just regular old Thanos is still a pretty tough dude. So just seeing him get in there in a tank role, I think it would just kind of be like a crowd pleaser for a lot of people.
Also, just all the interactions that he would have with people like in the spawn rooms would be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, everybody ignores him.
Like I said, I'm not a huge like Marvel nerd. Like but I do love X-Men. I grew up watching the animated series, had all the action figures, and loved the like original, like was it 21st Century Fox or 20th Century Fox X-Men series.
One of those centuries, yeah.
Yeah, one of the Century Foxes that did it. So I love X-Men, so the more X-Men the merrier. Like, I'd love to see Jubilee in the game. Love to see Beast and Rogue. Gambit is one of my favorite X-Men of all time. And I think some of these have been like leaked as coming to the game, so but I'd love to see Beast as like a strategist. I'd love to see like Rogue as a strategist. I'd love to see like Colossus and Juggernaut come to the game as well as Vanguards. So I'm going to be excited for every single X-Men that they can bring to this game. You mentioned that Magneto, that like classic Magneto skin, and now I really want it because I'm reading through that Magneto arc, and he's honestly the most interesting character in Marvel, in my opinion. Like, he's a
lot of fun. Have you watched X-Men 97?
Yeah, he's so good in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top notch.
I mean, he's just the perfect like villain / anti-hero. Like, you're kind of sympathetic to his cause and in his plight, like. But yeah, no, the more X-Men the merrier. I mean, we're definitely going to get Deadpool at some point, and I think his interactions with the characters are going to be a lot of fun too. Spider-Gwen, I think, would be a lot of fun in the game. So dude, this roster is going to be huge when it's all said and done, hopefully.
I'm ready for it. I want that Dragon Ball like Sparking Zero size roster, just 180 plus or whatever it is, maybe 200 by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all there for it. Again, like, some characters may be samey, but there are going to be some differences here and there.
Yeah,
you get Miles Morales in there. You've got an electric Spider-Man. Boom.
Dude,
there's some, like you said, there's just a lot of room. You mentioned the word joy earlier, and how kind of like this game, I know for me, has brought like a shocking amount of joy to me. I haven't enjoyed playing a competitive game like this in a long time, and I think a part of that is just because there's so much potential for anything and everything to happen. And I'm all in for it, baby.
Look, dude, League of Legends is over a decade old. It's got like 150 characters in it. Like, they'll figure out how to make them different, each character only needs like 3 abilities each, they'll figure it out, and there can be some overlap. I mean, the Thing is going to throw Wolverine too, so they don't mind pulling out some of the same stuff, but all right.
But goodies.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. If you tuned in on TikTok or over on Twitch, we appreciate you as well. Like I said, we're going to do this every Tuesday. We'll probably fiddle around with the time. Like Seth said at the beginning of the show, we're on different coasts, so we got to figure out a time that works really well for us. But make sure you're following us wherever you're watching us. We'll also be on podcast services everywhere the following day, so if you can't catch us live, listen to us over there. We'll do some polls on Spotify. We also have an email set up, Seth. Good old email, rivalbanter@gmail.com. If you guys have things that you want to talk about, topics that you want us to broach, questions, if you want some competitive advice from Seth on how to not get tilted at your team just trickling to the point for 30 minutes straight, email us over at rivalbanter@gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer your questions. But first episode in the books, guys. Seth, this was fun. Love you, buddy. Thanks for joining me today. And
hell yeah, love you too, buddy.
Good luck in your games this week, everybody. And may the climb be great. And we'll see you next week for season 1.5. Later.